She's a Richmond native who's back after earning a degree at Indiana University. She's also a stand-up comic. She's an improv comedian. And in her spare time, she's the development director at Cope Environmental Center. So please welcome Kaitlyn Blansett.
So, in order to understand my story, you're going to need a couple of context clues. The first thing is something you should know about me, which is that I love cats. Thank you. I'm a middle child, so I believe love should be earned and attention should be begged for. And cats are they're the only critter out there that'll do that for you. The second thing you need to know is that my dad is highly allergic to cats. So I grew up in the house without any cats, despite my love for them since birth. So now you are ready to hear the story of the first time I neutered a cat. So thank you. I want to take you back in time, quite a few years. The year is 2013. I'm a sophomore in college. I am independent. I am broke. I am responsible. And I really had my life figured out, you know? I was 20 years old, and I felt like it was a time in my life where I was ready to start taking care of something other than myself, something else. And both my roommates at this time have cats, and so I think this is the time I'm gonna get my own cat. And I come back home and I share this great idea with my dad, and he immediately says no, but I was 20 years old and I didn't need his permission anymore. But I came home for Christmas break, and we had this conversation, and using logic and reason, he did convince me that now was probably not the best time to get a cat. I was moving around a lot. I was very poor. I couldn't have afforded it anyway. So I decided not to. And we're sitting in the living room. It's Christmas Eve, and we're partaking in my most favorite Christmas tradition, which is where I subject my dad to 24 hours of A Christmas Story on TBS. And we're sitting in the living room, we're watching The Christmas Story together, and I hear this noise, and at first I think it's just coming from the television, so I ignore it. But then it starts to get louder, and it becomes more distinct. And I can hear outside the window is this meow coming from outside, and it seems like a Christmas miracle, right? I open the curtain, and there sitting on the windowsill is this perfect orange cat. And we make eye contact, and there's just this spark, there's this connection, and we get lost in each other's eyes, and we get lost in all of the adventures we'll have in the future, and we both forget that we are sitting in Jeff Blansett's living room, and there is no way that that cat's coming inside. And so I look back over, and my dad has witnessed this magical connection that the cat and I have. And he gives me a look that only a dad can give a daughter when she's about to ask for something ridiculous. And so without even exchanging any words, I know that this cat's not coming inside, and I get kind of upset. And so I do what every child of divorce does when we get upset. I go to my mom's. And so I wake up the next morning, Christmas morning, to the best Christmas present my dad could have given me. It was a 7-word text. It said, "Cat's in the garage, come get it." So I rush back over to my dad's house, and he tells me about how this cat sat outside of his window all night, not meowing, but crying, just begging to come inside. And so I get back over to my dad's, and he's let the cat inside, and he's given him eggnog because it's the Christmas season, and he's out of milk and out of his comfort zone with cats, and he just doesn't know what to do. So this was the first time that I meet face-to-face with Harvard P. Blansett, or Harvey, as I call him now. And at first, Harvey is sick. He's really sick. We see he has this wound on his shoulder where he's been bitten by something. It's really deep, and it's infected. So I have to take him to the vet. And I take him there, and they inject him with some antibiotics, and he immediately ejects all of the eggnog my dad gave him right onto the nurse. And they send me home with some medicine and an eyedropper and my very first cat. And the next 6 days are kind of rough because while I'm falling in love with this cat, I'm also trying to take care of it, and he's very sick. And the medicine that they gave him actually gave him seizures. And so he would just start like seizing in my arms, and I don't know, I was freaking out because I thought, I finally get this cat and it's gonna die on me in the first week. Like, it just didn't seem fair. So I am determined at this point that I am going to save Harvey. And you know what? I do. Well, either I do or the medicine did, but I like to think it was me. And so after I've saved Harvey, I decided to be a responsible cat owner, and I think if I'm gonna keep this cat, I need to get it neutered, right? Because all cats should be neutered. There are way too many cats running out there in the streets. You should just get it done. So I take him back to the vet, and before he goes in, you know, I give him a pep talk. I tell him, you know, everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna hurt. You're not even gonna remember it, you know? And we decide to snap a selfie before he goes in, which I upload to Instagram. It did get 38 likes. And I take him into the vet, and they tell me, you know, you can pick him up in a couple of hours. Okay. So I get back in my car. I drive away. All of a sudden, my phone rings. That's weird. So I answered it, not while driving, of course. I was driving. I answer it. Well, I see, it's Taylor from the swim team, from the high school I graduated from 2 years ago. Why is Taylor calling me? So I answer the phone, hello. She goes, hi, I see you found Trigga. I said, what's a Trigga? She said, your Instagram post. I see you found my cat, Trigga. I did. And I don't know if you've ever had to explain to somebody that you picked their cat up off the street and took it in and got its lines snipped. But it's not a fun conversation. And you might wonder too how I knew kind of from the beginning that it was truly her cat. And I guess it was the way that she described the green flea collar he was wearing. And then when I remembered that Taylor and I are neighbors, like, yeah, that was her cat. So she goes, well, thank you so much for finding him. Can I pick him up? And I said, yeah, in a couple of hours. And so I end up picking up Harvey from the vet, and, well, I guess he's Trigga at this point. Which, you know what, be as upset and astonished at me as you want for having picked up a cat off the street and got its balls chopped off or whatever, but at least I didn't name it Trigga. That's the true crime here today. So I pick up Trigga from the vet, and I go to Taylor's house, and I leave her with the medicine and the eyedropper and my very first cat. And I'm sad for a long time, you know. I spend the next year kind of thinking about his perfect little white paws and his beautiful green eyes and the little splotch of orange on his lip that looks like he's been eating tikka masala sauce. And, you know, you don't forget about a cat like that. And about a year later, I get, my phone rings again, and I look, and it's Taylor from the swim team, from the high school I graduated from 3 years ago. Why is Taylor calling me this time? I did not neuter any cats that day. So I answer the phone, hello. She goes, hi. And she begins to explain to me that she now has a new baby sister, and like Jeff Blansett, this baby sister is highly allergic to cats. Thank God. So she asked me, she goes, so I need to find Trigga a new home. And she goes, do you want him back? And I mean, what could I say but yes? Thank you.